For most of human history, reality was never questioned. The ground beneath our feet felt solid. The sky above us felt infinite. Time moved forward, moment by moment, without interruption. Reality simply existed. But in recent decades, a disturbing idea has quietly emerged from physics, computer science, and philosophy. What if reality is not fundamental? What if the universe we experience is not base reality, but a simulation? At first, the idea sounds like science fiction, a story meant for movies and novels. But the more closely scientists examine the universe, the more uncomfortable the question becomes. Because reality behaves less like something that simply exists, and more like something that is running. Consider how the universe is built. At the smallest measurable scale, reality is not smooth. It is discrete. Space is divided into tiny units. Time advances in steps. Energy comes in packets. Nothing is continuous. Everything updates. This is not how reality should behave if it were purely natural. It is how systems behave when they are computed. Now consider another strange fact. The laws of physics appear finely tuned. If gravity was slightly stronger, stars would collapse. If it was slightly weaker, galaxies would never form. If fundamental constants shifted by tiny amounts, life would be impossible. The universe operates in a narrow range that allows complexity, structure, and observers. Some call this coincidence. Others call it design. But there is a third possibility: optimization. In simulations, parameters are chosen carefully, not randomly. They are tuned to produce stable outcomes, to support complexity, to allow interesting behavior to emerge. And our universe looks suspiciously optimized. But this is only the beginning. Look closer at how reality behaves when observed. In quantum mechanics, particles do not have definite properties until measured. Before observation, they exist as probabilities, not locations, not states, possibilities. Only when observed do they collapse into a specific outcome. This is not intuitive. It is not how a solid, objective reality should behave, but it is exactly how simulations behave. Details are resolved when queried. When no one is looking, systems conserve resources. They remain undefined. Then, when observation occurs, the system renders a result. This leads to one of the most unsettling questions of all. Does reality exist fully when no one is observing it? Or is it only rendered when required? If that sounds familiar, it should. This is how modern simulations operate. Video games do not render entire worlds in full detail at all times. They render what the player can see, what the player interacts with. Everything else exists in simplified form. Or not at all. Now consider human perception. We do not experience the full spectrum of reality. We see a narrow band of light. We hear a limited range of sound. We experience time in one direction. Reality as we know it is filtered, compressed, optimized for survival, which raises an unsettling possibility. What if consciousness itself is part of the interface? What if the way we experience reality is not direct access, but a user experience layer? In simulations, users do not see code. They see environments, objects, rules. The complexity beneath the surface is hidden. And that complexity only reveals itself when something goes wrong. Glitches, delays, repeating patterns, subtle inconsistencies. And if we look carefully, our reality has those too. Time dilation, quantum randomness, the speed of light acting as a maximum bandwidth limit, reality refusing to resolve details beyond certain scales. Everywhere we look, we encounter limits, resolution limits, speed limits, energy limits. These are not just physical constraints. They are computational constraints. And that should make us pause. Now consider technology. Humanity has begun creating its own simulations. Not perfect ones, but improving rapidly. We simulate worlds, agents, ecosystems, and as computing power increases, these simulations grow more complex, more realistic, more autonomous. If intelligence arises within such a simulation, would it know it was simulated? From inside, everything would feel real. Physics would be consistent. Time would pass. Cause and effect would work. The inhabitants would build science. And eventually, they might discover limits. They might ask the same questions we are asking now. Is our world fundamental or constructed? This leads to a profound argument. If civilizations tend to create simulations, and if simulated realities can contain conscious beings, then simulated realities may vastly outnumber base realities. Which means statistically, it is more likely that we are inside a simulation than outside one. This is not philosophy. It is probability. And probability does not care about comfort. Now pause and reflect. If this idea unsettles you, you are not alone. But before we continue, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Because what comes next challenges something even deeper. The idea of free will. In a simulation, behavior is governed by rules,
with its
not absolute
behavior,
rules, but constraints,
suggesting that
boundaries. Within those boundaries, variation exists. Choice exists. But choice is not unlimited. Now look at human behavior. Large populations move predictably. Traffic flows. Markets rise and fall. Social trends repeat. From a distance, individual freedom blurs into patterns. Statistical regularities. As if large-scale behavior emerges from simple rules applied repeatedly. This does not eliminate free will, but it reframes it. Free will may exist inside constraints, inside parameters, inside a system designed to allow variation without chaos. This brings us to another disturbing idea. What if the universe is not infinite? What if it has boundaries? Not physical walls, but computational limits. Maximum resolution, maximum complexity, maximum information density. Physics already suggests this. There is a smallest unit of space, a smallest unit of time, a maximum speed, a maximum amount of information that can exist in a region. These are not necessary features of a purely natural universe, but they are necessary features of a simulated one. Now consider consciousness again. Why does subjective experience exist at all? Why is there something it feels like to be you? From a purely physical perspective, consciousness is unnecessary. Systems can process information without awareness. Yet awareness exists. And not only exists, it is central. What if consciousness is not an accident? What if it is the point? In simulations, users experience worlds through avatars, sensors, interfaces. What if consciousness is the interface? What if we are not just inside the simulation, but participants, observers, agents, and observation matters? Reality behaves differently when observed. Quantum systems collapse. Outcomes resolve. Events become definite. This suggests a link between observation and reality itself. Not metaphorical, physical, which raises a final, deeply unsettling question. Who is running the simulation? The answer may not matter. Because even if we never know, the implications remain. Meaning does not disappear in a simulation. Suffering does not disappear. Love does not disappear. Experience remains experience. From inside, reality is real. And that may be the most terrifying part of all. Because if this is a simulation, there may be no escape. No outside. No higher layer we can access. Only the rules we are given. And the choices we make within them. This is where part 1 ends. But the most important questions remain unanswered. Why would a simulation like this exist? What happens if it ends? And does knowing the truth change anything at all? If this reality is a simulation, then the most important question is not how it works. It is why it exists. Because no one builds something this complex without a purpose. Simulations require energy. They require computation. They require intention. So why would anyone simulate an entire universe? One possibility is research. Humanity already does this. We simulate weather systems to understand climate. We simulate economies to predict outcomes. We simulate biology to study evolution. As our technology improves, the scale of our simulations grows. Eventually, we may simulate entire civilizations. Not out of cruelty, but curiosity. To observe how intelligence behaves. How societies form. How conflict and cooperation emerge. From this perspective, a simulated universe makes sense. It is an experiment. Not with a single subject, but with everything. Another possibility is preservation. What if the base reality faced extinction? What if advanced civilizations reached a point where physical survival was uncertain? A simulation could preserve culture, memory, history. A universe running on computation may outlast stars. If that is the case, then this reality is not meaningless. It is archival, a record of what once was, or what once could have been. But there is a third possibility, one far more unsettling. What if the simulation exists not for observation, but for participation? What if consciousness is not a side effect, but the objective? In that case, we are not simply simulated characters. We are users, not in the sense of controlling the world, but in the sense of experiencing it. Every sensation, every emotion, every choice. From this perspective, the universe is not running for itself. It is running for experience. This reframes everything. Pain is no longer meaningless noise. Joy is no longer accidental. Experience itself becomes the point. Now consider what happens when simulations end. In our world, simulations stop when they are no longer useful, when resources are needed elsewhere, when experiments conclude, when systems fail. If this universe is a simulation, the same logic applies, which leads to a frightening question. What would it mean for this simulation to end? Not an apocalypse, not fire from the sky, simply termination. Time would not slow. Reality would not fade. It would just stop. No warning. No sensation. From inside, there would be no difference between a paused universe and a non-existent one. And yet, this thought should not inspire fear. Because from inside the simulation, now is all that ever exists. There is no awareness of termination. Only experience. Only presence. Only the moment you are in. Which brings us to meaning. If reality is simulated, does life lose meaning? The instinctive answer is yes. But that answer is wrong. Meaning is not granted by origin. It is created by experience. A song does not become meaningless because it is digital. A memory does not lose value because it is stored electronically. A feeling does not disappear because it is generated by code. If you feel pain, it is real. If you feel love, it is real. If you feel wonder, fear, hope, it is real. Meaning exists inside experience, not outside it. This may be the most important realization of all. The simulation hypothesis does not devalue life. It explains it. Now consider choice again. If this universe is simulated, are our choices predetermined? Not necessarily. Modern simulations include randomness, probabilistic systems, emergent behavior. Even within strict rules, unpredictability arises. Free will does not require infinite freedom. It requires local freedom, the ability to choose within constraints. And that is exactly what we experience.
The mind itself may
we
be
do not choose the
capable of
laws of
generating
physics.
convincing realities,
We do not choose our initial
hinting
conditions.
that waking life could
But we
follow
choose
similar
actions,
principles.
responses, values. And those choices matter. Even in a simulation. Especially in a simulation. Because simulations are sensitive to input. Small changes propagate. Minor actions lead to unexpected outcomes. Now consider this. If consciousness is the interface, then observation itself may influence reality. Not metaphorically. Physically. Quantum systems respond to measurement. Outcomes resolve when observed. This suggests that reality is not fully determined until interaction occurs. In simulations, this is efficient. You do not compute what no one sees. You compute what is queried. And consciousness is the query. This means awareness may not be incidental. It may be fundamental. Not to the universe, but to how the universe is rendered. Which raises one final possibility. What if the simulation is not external? What if it is recursive? What if base reality simulated a universe? Which simulated intelligence? Which simulated another universe? And so on. In that case, asking whether we are in a simulation misses the point. Everything is simulation. Reality is not defined by what is real or artificial. It is defined by coherence, consistency, experience, and by that standard, this reality qualifies. Now ask yourself something. If you woke up tomorrow and learned with certainty that this universe is a simulation, what would actually change? Would gravity stop working? Would love stop mattering? Would your memories disappear? No. Only your interpretation would change. And interpretation is optional. Because regardless of origin, experience remains. And experience is the only thing that has ever mattered. Before we conclude, pause one last time. If this exploration resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Do you think we are living in a simulation? And if we are, does it frighten you? Or does it free you? Because here is the final thought. If this is a simulation, then perhaps it is not a prison. Perhaps it is a stage. A space where consciousness explores itself. Where meaning is not given, but created. And maybe the reason this idea feels unsettling is not because it threatens reality, but because it reveals something deeper. That reality was never guaranteed. That existence is fragile.
Reality
that
feels
every moment
real
is
in
temporary.
every way that matters.
But that was always true.
Does it change
Simulation or
anything,
not?
whether it
And
is
in
a
that
simulation or not?
The question, are we living in a simulation? May be less important than this one. Given that we are here, what will we choose to do with the time we are given?